Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's really an honor for me to speak to such a distinguished audience as you, as the young upcoming leaders of the world, of Europe. And during the next 30 minutes, I would like to talk about the importance, but also the relationship between sustainability and leadership. It seems to me quite obvious that we are living in times where both sustainability and leadership are strongly needed. At present, we are facing at least two major crises, which are the explicit result of missing sustainability and missing leadership. These two crises are having a massive impact on our lives already, and they will have even a greater impact in the future for us, for our children, and for our grandchildren. First of all, there is the ongoing climate change. As it has been a risk for humankind in the beginning, it has become a real danger by now. And the other one is the financial and economic crisis, which caused, please don't forget that, the greatest economic downturn since the Great Depression in the 30s of the last century. It may not be clear to everyone, but these two things, these two developments, climate change and financial economic crisis, are connected very closely together. And therefore I believe it will be not feasible really to solve one without looking to the other. Both crises are the result of a dramatic lack of sustainable development. Both are the result of the domination of short-term orientation. It is necessary to rethink the role of the economy for the society. Indeed, we have to redefine our concept of wealth and our definition of wealth in general. Up to now, our wasteful use of limited resources, as well as our economic behavior, is characterized by self-destructive, short-term thinking. And Albert Einstein, a researcher which I deeply admire, once said the very wise sentence, "You can't solve a problem by the thinking which caused the problem." This is our present situation. To achieve sustainable wealth in the future, the long-term benefit must become our orientation. That's not a question of the next 2-3 years, not even of the next 10 years. This will be a very conflictful time for all of us in the next 20, 30, 40 years. Let me start with the first crisis. The development of a low-carbon society is indeed an ambitious undertaking. And the transformation that is needed will be massive. In the end, not only our economies will have changed, but also our whole societies, our lifestyles. It will be a completely different way of life. We are completely different cities, which will develop in the next 50 years. In the city that's the past, the large cities, were the major energy consumers, for example. In the future, our cities will be energy producers, and that's feasible. To achieve this goal of developing a new way of life, it will be not sufficient enough to foster attractive market sectors, like renewable energies, for example. That's fine, that's nice, that's good, that's necessary, that's elementary. And we'll reach it without really very serious conflicts. But to fight the climate change, and then we are coming to very serious conflicts, we have to reduce our carbon emissions dramatically in industrialized countries in the next 30, 40 years by 90%. And that is not only a problem of the production sector. This is to some extent a difference to what Mrs. Kühner said. It is also a problem of the consumption sector. We have to rebuild our cities and to rethink our organizations of mobility. We have to create products, services, logistic systems, solutions which support us on our way towards sustainable developments. Markets can be of great help at this, but they need guidance. They need rules, they need right incentives, and they need convincing signals. And most of all, we need people who push this transformation in the right direction. In all areas of our societies, in all areas, not only in politics. We need political leadership as well as joint efforts by enterprises and the civil society. On their meeting in November 2008, the G20 members emphasized to make the global financial system and the markets, as I said, more stable and sustainable. That was nice to hear. But to my great concern, I cannot see any leadership towards sustainable economic policy yet. The same happened at the Copenhagen summit at the end of last year. The world expected leadership by the industrialized countries, but the world leaders didn't fulfill these expectations. Not even the European Union, with its large potential of green technology, was willing to do a further step on its own. It seems to me that if the governments have not understood the signs of our time yet. For example, in Germany, every 20th job today is associated with environmental issues already, with an increasing tendency. But instead of financing green technology and other subjects that create sustainable benefit and employment, our government spent massive amounts of money to stabilize the existing financial sector with their products and their services. None of the services which created the crisis, none of the products which created the crisis disappeared from the market. Neither nationally nor internationally. That's the truth. And that's the basis why Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley or others do have now these profits of more than 3, 5, 6 billions of dollars in the last quarter. It's exactly the same techniques they use in making money. And instead of really reforming the financial sectors, they stabilized the existing sector, and they spent massive amounts of money to foster sunset industries. To stimulate the massive transformation towards sustainability, we need more political leadership. Indeed, like the program of the New Deal in the 30s of last century in the United States, This was necessary to fight back the Great Depression. And so we need today clear direction and coordinated joint efforts for more sustainable development. And I'm deeply convinced New Deals under the seal of sustainability will take place if, but only if, politicians take leadership in reshaping the framework for globalized markets on a national level as well as on the international level. Meanwhile, sustainability leaders in business should go ahead and dare to tackle current and future problems with business solutions. How can enterprises of all sizes raise resource efficiency and thereby lower their costs? This has also developed in the past. But we have to speed up these processes. A very, very large problem, which will create a completely new industry. It's not blue-collared or green-collared. It's a new industry. How can chemical industry find a solution for CO2 as a resource, which is still mainly considered as a waste problem? This might be an astonishing idea, but we do have first companies who are active in that field. And if we don't solve this problem using CO2 as a resource, we won't be able to solve the climatic change problem. This is the real outstanding research and technology problem of our time. Or how can financial markets guard against volatile financial products and overvaluation in stock markets? How can we reform our financial sectors to prevent that the money of the people who they bring to the bank is used for useless speculation? I think Obama has some very good ideas published just recently. Ladies and gentlemen, there lies a business case. That's my message. There lies a business case within sustainability issues as climate change, as the scarcity of resources or demographic changes, with a growing population worldwide and an aging society in industrialized countries. And that business case for sustainability is comparable, indeed, I have to admit, it's comparable to the Holy Grail. It's hard to find, and unfortunately, as you know the story, the quest is never over. But this is also the philosophy of market economy. The quest is never over. A leader in sustainability markets is one who is setting trends and finds market opportunities before others do. It's the first mover. It's the innovator. And never be angry if others will follow, because that is always the character of competition. A leader in sustainability has, in addition, to be transparent about his specific actions towards sustainable process management. It is not enough to produce the right product with the best process quality, profitable for people, planet, and our balance sheets. What is necessary is credibility. And credibility is gained with integrity and transparency for all potential stakeholders. And for all potential stakeholders, nationally and in a globalized world. An important instrument is a sustainability report for the enterprises, with the aims and the targets mentioned in that sustainability report, but also with remarks about hindrances and conducive factors in sustainability management. All this will only work if politics is willing to lay open their long-term perspective on measures to enhance sustainable development. Politics itself is in deep need of more leadership, more visibility, more effectiveness, and more action to be delivered. In recent years, a number of public actors here in Germany have developed sustainable development strategies. The federal government on the national level, some of the states, most of the states at the regional level, a large number of cities with very outstanding activities, and also on the departmental level. The strategies are meant to serve as navigators to identify challenges at an early stage, find sound and cross-cutting solutions that can deliver much more than standalone actions. Sustainability strategies are an important instrument to develop new styles of policy making and of thinking. What lies at the heart of sustainable development strategies are 4 points. First, very simple. You need quantitative indicators as a means of orientation and of questioning whether progress has gone in the desired direction or not. You need measures and instruments to determine further actions. You need socially agreed targets and references values to show the general direction of development we should follow. And last not least, you need an ethical concept to guide decision-making within non-avoidable conflicting interests. And sustainability is not a win-win-win situation. Sometimes it's fine, it's a win-win situation. But in most cases, it's a very hard job in the environment of conflicting interests. The effectiveness of sustainability strategies, however, depend on the solutions found to 5 questions that are crucial. And I want to make quite clear what is needed here are new and innovative approaches and speeding up the learning curve. These 5 questions are, first, how to effectively integrate sustainability targets within existing institutional processes, in parliament, in government, in the enterprises, in the kind of cooperation, especially in the cooperation internationally. World trade, for example. Second, how to design a management approach that responds to deviations and allows for corrective measures. Not just telling these are our targets, and after 5 years, at the end of the day, say, sorry, something happened which we didn't expect. That's just the controversy of modern management, of modern public management. Third, what are the right instruments to stimulate the market forces towards sustainable development? Fourth, how to emerge new forms of participation in dialogue in order to fill sustainability strategies with life. Sustainability is not a technical problem. It's not a poor economic problem. It's basically a problem how we communicate, how we prepare, and how we organize our decisions in order to make the steps toward sustainability. And finally, how to address rising humanitarian challenges such as the right to food against the backdrop of climate change, increasing global population, rising food prices due to new market participants and political factors. I would like to give you a concrete example of a very unusual, but in my view, a highly effective tool in order to stimulate sustainable development here in Germany. Invited by the German federal government, 7 internationally well-known experts have critically reviewed the progress of sustainable development in Germany. And these 7 persons were coming from very different countries, from different continents. They have very different background, professional background, some of them coming from government positions, some from the private sector, from the enterprises, and some from the scientific community, and some from NGOs. And their task was to look on the development of sustainable development in Germany in all these areas: government, business, NGOs, science. And this group was headed by my good friend Björn Stixen, the chairman of the World Council, the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. He was the chairman of this review committee, of this peer review done by these 7 people. And he just recently, a couple of weeks ago, handed this report over to Chancellor Merkel, who has assured to examine it carefully. Even more, she mandated at this meeting this review committee to evaluate the achieved progress after a 3-year period again. And I think this was a very wise decision she made. In their analysis, the peers pointed to the capability and responsibility of Germany to structure economic development in a sustainable way towards a low-carbon society. And Björn Stixen made in his comments very clear and convinced all the other peers that understanding why sustainability is something which is important for the business community by its own interests is that there's a very simple argument. We are absolutely sure in 2050 the number of people living on the planet will increase dramatically, and most probable from today's 6 billion to 9 billion people. And he said whatever happens, it is absolutely sure that the CO2 emissions have to decrease dramatically worldwide. Otherwise, we will have such an economic crisis that the CO2 will decrease just by the crisis. And he said it's very simple. We are running into a shortage of certain raw materials. If we don't solve, we'll have an economic crisis. It is our interest. If we want to make business in the future, we have to do it in a sustainable way. This is why we are engaged in sustainability. This was his conviction. And I think he's right. He's absolutely right. And the peers acknowledged the strong competitive position Germany still has in an ever-increasing global competition about green engineering in all its aspects and efficiency strategies alike. And the peers said, look and listen. Don't wait till there will be consensus internationally. The green race in economic terms is on. And it will continue. And it is wise to start at the earliest possible day in this race. Otherwise, you have disadvantages. But to make full use of our capabilities, here in Germany, they said, we have to rethink our approaches to coordination. They didn't tell us do this or that in chemical industry or the car industry or elsewhere in the utilities or whatever are interesting fields of sustainable development. But they said the major point is the lack of coordination. That you have to strengthen your horizontal and vertical integration, which is still today organized in separated actions and in silos. And we need to strengthen cooperation between the public and the private sector, but also within the private sector. This were one of their strong recommendations. The peers highly recommended coming up with an ambitious 2050 visions. They called it a grand design for Germany to lay ground for sustainable development policies. Above all, this grand design means, in their view, to exercise a front-runner behavior, which is a cultural problem also, to set up even more ambitious targets, to reap competitive advantages by leading the development of new green technologies and services, to create markets, sometimes only by setting up standards, to develop the skills and capacities by education that will be needed, and to trigger transition by the developing of sectoral roadmaps and clear and transparent monitoring and reporting systems. And all this is only possible with a joint effort of the private and the public sector. In order to organize this kind of orientations, they said, you need new institutions. You need new platforms. You need new forms for cooperating, for exchanging ideas, and orienting the different actions towards sustainability. As a transformation will be a long process, and as I personally believe sustainability will be on the highest level of relevance when I am, even if I'm living very, very long, when I'm dead. This is an issue for the next 2 generations. And a kind of grand design, like the peer review pointed out, is necessary. The long-term orientation of the concept of sustainability is offering these needed orientation. Even if the circumstances may change, and they will change. It works like a compass to guide our people in the right way to new ground. But sustainability as a compass is still an instrument only. It is not working all by itself. It has to be used by people, not by political leaders and leaders in business alone, but by all of us. To make the world more sustained in the future, we all have to take responsibility for our children, for our grandchildren's sake. We have to overcome narrow interest focused on short-term benefit only. And I'm personally deeply convinced sustainability is necessary in order to promote globalization. Globalization without sustainability won't work. It will create one crisis after the next. And the only way to avoid it is to bring these two things together, globalization and sustainability. And this is a long struggle ahead of us. It is very similar to the struggle of developing a social-based market economy. It took nearly 1 century in order to develop it. I would be happy if it would take us only 40 years to develop it. But it's necessary to develop it. And that's the end of my remarks. Thank you very much for your patience and for your kind attention.